Welcome back to the Murder Tapes podcast, Season 4, Episode 5. We now have a new intro song, if you couldn't already tell, and I'm really excited about it because it sounds so much more fitting for the podcast, but I will definitely miss the old one. Also, I'm about to post a giveaway on the podcast Instagram at Murder Tapes Podcast, and it'll be live for about a month or so, just so that everyone will have the opportunity to enter. I've been wanting to do a giveaway for quite a while just to show that I am so thankful for every single one of y'all's support, and I truly appreciate the love. Now, on to today's case. This one is extremely heartbreaking. We'll be discussing the Laken Hope Riley case. I myself run every day. I just graduated college and I was in a sorority, so this felt a little too close to home, and I absolutely cannot imagine what her family is going through. I'm going to link her family's fundraiser in the show notes if any of you are able to donate to it. I will be later on this evening, and I know that her family is very appreciative of everyone that has already pitched in. 22-year-old nursing student Laken Hope Riley was from Woodstock, Georgia, and graduated in 2020 from River Ridge High School, where she was actively involved in both cross-country and track, as reported by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. At the time of her passing, Cherokee County Schools Superintendent Brian Hightower expressed his condolences, describing her as a bright light lost too soon. He praised her as an exceptional student-athlete who inspired both peers and educators with her passion for learning and her genuine kindness. He urged the community to keep her family in their thoughts during this difficult time. At the University of Georgia, Laken was a member of the Alpha Chi Omega sorority. She was also a dedicated runner, having participated in the Ath Half Marathon in October 2023. Later that year, she earned a spot on the Dean's List at Augusta University. Laken had studied at the University of Georgia until the spring of 2023, after which she transferred to Augusta University's College of Nursing, as confirmed by a statement from the University of Georgia. Despite her transfer, she continued to be involved with her sorority, according to the Associated Press. On February 22, 2024, Laken was out on her regular morning run on the intramural fields of the University of Georgia campus when she went missing. At 9:02 a.m., Laken reached out to her mother as she was preparing for a run, asking if her mom had time to chat. Quote, "Good morning, about to go for a run, are you free to talk?" However, after her initial text and call around 20 minutes later, Laken stopped responding to her mother's attempts to reach her. Laken's roommate also grew worried and called campus police. Laken had already encountered 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra on a wooded running trail at the University of Georgia. When Laken did not answer her phone, her mother, Allison Phillips, began texting her, starting with casual messages, but growing more worried as time passed. Her first message at 9:37 a.m. simply read, "Call me when you can." After her calls went unanswered, Allison sent another text at 9:58 a.m., expressing concern. Quote, "You're making me nervous, not answering while you're out running. Are you okay?" As the hours went on, her anxiety grew, and at 11:47 a.m., Allison texted again saying, "Please call me, I'm worried sick about you." She and other family members continued to try to call Laken. According to Dr. Michelle DeMarco, an associate medical examiner with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Laken died from combined effects of blunt force head trauma and asphyxia. Jose struck Laken in the head with a rock multiple times. She had a depressed skull fracture on the left side of her head and multiple injuries on her neck, torso, and limbs. There were a total of 8 cuts to Laken's head, and the medical examiner wasn't able to determine the type of asphyxia Laken suffered. Asphyxia occurs when the body is deprived of oxygen. It can be caused by hanging, manual strangulation, or physical compression. There were 2 rocks found at the crime scene. Further forensic analysis confirmed that Laken's DNA was found on a blue jacket discovered in a trash bin at Jose's apartment complex. There were also 3 black disposable kitchen gloves found in the bushes near the complex. One of them had blood on it. The state crime lab determined that the blood belonged to Laken. In addition, DNA belonging to Jose was detected both on the jacket and under Laken's fingernails, providing additional evidence connecting him to the crime, according to testimony from forensic experts. Quote, "In a struggle with Laken over her phone, Jose left behind his left thumbprint on her iPhone. which was found not far from her body at the crime scene. Data from Laken's smartwatch revealed that her heart stopped at 9:28 a.m. In the video footage, Sergeant Kenneth Maxwell could be heard gasping as he discovered Laken's lifeless body and immediately began performing CPR. He testified that when he found her, her shirt had been pulled up and she was located at least 50 feet off the trail where authorities believe she had been jogging. Kenneth also noted that the scene didn't suggest an accident. Quote, "It looked more intentional. It appeared as though someone had either tried to remove her top or used it to drag her." Daniela Stewart, a Georgia Bureau of Investigation crime scene specialist, was called to testify in Jose's trial. She described discovering injuries on the left side of Laken's head, along with linear marks on her torso and beneath her underwear. Quote, "Her hair was very tangled, which made it difficult for me to locate the additional injuries. It was tangled with leaves, blood, and dirt." Daniela also pointed out a large bare spot in the wooded area where Laken's body was found, which is visible in crime scene photos presented in court. While most of the area was covered with leaves, there was one spot where the ground was exposed, which Daniela believed indicated a significant disturbance. Quote, "You could see almost like a slight depression in that area that led from the running trail to the area where the ground could be clearly seen." The specialist testified that she found a Latin print in the area where you would swipe to unlock Laken's phone, as well as reddish stains suspected to be blood on the device, which was discovered in the leaves at the scene. Daniela also recalled photographing injuries on Jose the following day at the Athens Clarke County Police Department. She noted scratches and wounds on his hands, arms, neck, and back. Athens Clarke County police officer Zachary Davis also took the stand, testifying about finding a jacket that contained both Laken's and Jose's DNA. The jacket was discovered in a nearby dumpster. Quote, "I began checking dumpsters, just because people tend to try and get rid of property in dumpsters they don't want to be in possession of. After searching several other dumpsters, he found the dark blue jacket inside a recycling dumpster." Body camera footage of Zachary retrieving the jacket was shown in court. Quote, "Upon picking up the jacket, I noticed that there were leaves on it. There were tears on the front as well, and what appeared to be some darker red or brown stains on the sleeves near the wrist." In the video, Zachary is heard saying, "Oh shit, there's hair on the buttons. Women's long hair wrapped up in the buttons." As Zachary continued his testimony, several people in the courtroom were visibly shaking their heads in disgust with each new detail. Some even left the courtroom, unable to continue watching. During the opening statements, prosecutor Sheila Ross emphasized that Laken had fought for her life. Quote, "The evidence will show that Laken fought for her life and her dignity, and in that struggle she left behind forensic evidence that connected this defendant to the crime." The prosecutor went on to explain that data from Laken's smartwatch would reveal that her encounter with Jose was both long and fierce. Sheila also said Jose had gone out hunting for females that morning and killed Laken after a struggle when she refused to be his rape victim. In court, Allison was overcome with emotion as the text messages sent between her and her daughter were read aloud. Georgia Police Sergeant Sophie Rabaud, who had analyzed data from Laken's phone, shared the details of those messages, with Allison visibly distressed during the proceedings. According to CBS News producer Jared Eggleston, Sophie also presented video footage from surveillance cameras located near the wooded trail where Laken had been running. The video, which showed Laken on the trail that morning, caused Allison, along with other family members and friends, to weep as they watched the heartbreaking images. "I couldn't imagine having to sit through this." Prosecutors also played a recording of a jail phone call from May between Jose and his wife, Laken Franco. Laken continued to ask what happened with the girl and said that Jose must know something. Jose responded, "Laken, enough." Laken also told Jose that it was crazy police had only found his DNA. FBI specialist Abisis Ramirez, who translated the conversation from Spanish, testified that Jose told Laken he had been at the University of Georgia looking for work. He also mentioned that his wife had repeatedly expressed frustration, saying she was fed up and wanted him to tell the truth. This case has caused lots of political uproar because Jose is a Venezuelan migrant who, according to ICE records, first entered the US within the past 2 years. We're going to get into his criminal background, but it's important to remember that he does not represent a whole community. However, it is unfortunate that the media has pushed out this narrative that all immigrants act this way and shouldn't be allowed to live here. Statistically speaking, immigrants are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than US-born citizens. Laken's father also asked the media to stop using her as a political talking point. Quote, "I think it's being used politically to get those votes. It makes me angry. I feel like, they're just using my daughter's name for that, and she was much better than that. And she should be raised up for the person that she is. She was an angel." On September 8, 2022, U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents encountered Jose after he crossed the southern border near El Paso, Texas, according to a statement from ICE officials to ABC7. He was paroled and released for further processing, according to officials. ICE also revealed that Jose was arrested by the New York Police Department on September 14, 2023, and faced charges related to attempting to harm a child under 17 and a motor vehicle license violation. However, New York authorities released him before a detainer could be issued. The NYPD later told The Independent that they had no record of the arrest, casting doubt on the accuracy of the report. At the time of Laken's murder, University of Georgia Police Chief Jeff Clark stated that there was no known connection between Jose and Laken. He described the crime as an opportunity, where Jose encountered Laken and then attacked her. Prosecutors later argued that Jose assaulted Laken during her run. Affidavits detailed that he disfigured her skull in support of the aggravated battery charge, and that he used an object to inflict harm and dragged her body to a more secluded area. After Laken's death, Athens homicide detectives discovered a photo from a surveillance camera showing a potential suspect wearing a distinctive Adidas hat. This led investigators to search an off-campus apartment complex and begin piecing together details about Jose. Defense attorney Dustin Kirby argued that any evidence suggesting Jose killed Laken is purely circumstantial. During opening statements, prosecutors presented video footage they claim shows Jose disposing of evidence in a dumpster roughly 15 minutes after Laken's death. Quote, "The evidence in this case is very good, that Laken Riley was murdered. The evidence that Jose Ibarra killed Laken Riley is circumstantial." Dustin further stated that if the presumption of innocence is respected, there should not be enough evidence to convince the judge beyond a reasonable doubt that Jose is guilty of all the crimes charged. Dustin is expected to challenge the DNA evidence, arguing that prosecutors are relying on conflicting methods to connect DNA and fingerprints to Jose. He also dismissed the prosecution's claim that Jose's fingerprint was found on Laken's phone, asserting, quote, "He was wearing gloves, supposedly." Jose was charged with 1 count of malice murder, 3 counts of felony murder, and additional charges of kidnapping, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, hindering an emergency call, tampering with evidence, and peeping Tom. According to the indictment, on the same day Laken was killed, Jose also peered into the window of an apartment in university housing, which led to the peeping Tom charge. Jose's bench trial began on November 15th after he waived his right to a jury trial. Laken's death left both the University of Georgia and Augusta University communities heartbroken. She had been a University of Georgia student until May 2023 before transferring to Augusta's College of Nursing campus in Athens. At a vigil co-hosted by Laken's Alpha Chi Omega sorority at the University of Georgia, the chapter president spoke emotionally, saying, quote, "We lost one of the brightest lights that there's ever been. This campus and our sisterhood will never be the same without Laken Riley." Augusta University's College of Nursing described Laken as a promising future nurse, whose compassion and care for others is evident. Laken had just made the fall Dean's List and received her honorary white coat, which the nursing college said symbolizes humanism, compassion, and the start of her nurse's journey. She was expected to graduate in 2025. Quote, "The College of Nursing will miss Laken's spirit on campus, and our hearts go out to her family and friends," the statement read. "We know that she would have been a wonderful nurse, and her passing is a loss for the profession and the communities she would have graciously served." Laken's younger sister, Lauren Phillips, honored her best friend in an emotional Instagram post. Quote, "The best sister and my built-in best friend from the very first second. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but it's all going to be for you from now on. I cannot wait to give you the biggest hug someday. I will miss and love you forever, Laken. Her father, Jason Riley, would say, quote, "The pain I feel is unexplainable every day I am reminded my daughter is gone. I will never hold her hand or feel her hug. Our world has been torn apart. I am haunted by the fear that she felt in those final moments. I hope justice is served for her." Her mother, Allison Phillips, would say, quote, "Jose Ibarra took no pity on my scared, panicked, and struggling child. There is no end to the pain, suffering, and loss. On that horrific day, my precious daughter was attacked, beaten, and shown no mercy. She fought for her life and dignity, and to save herself from being brutally raped. This sick, twisted, and evil coward showed no regard for Laken and human life. We're asking the same be done to him." Before delivering his sentence, Judge Patrick Haggard addressed the court, and I'm going to play that audio for you.
All right. A couple of things before I announce the verdict. I want to point out that typically my role in a trial, in a criminal trial, is to manage the process. And the fact finding is done by a jury. That wasn't the case in this trial. I managed the process, try to. And I was also the finder of fact. And that is somewhat of a different role than we typically see. I'll tell you that you may have seen me, I make notes during the trial. I probably filled up 2 legal pads full of notes during the trial, but the closings, I want to just listen, and that's what I did. But I wrote down 2 things in the closing. One was a statement by Ms. Ross that the evidence was overwhelming and powerful. And then I also wrote down what Ms. Beck said, that I'm required to set aside my emotions. That's the same thing that we tell jurors in what and would give them their job. That's the way I have to approach this, and I did. Both of those statements are correct. I'll now announce the verdict. In the state of Georgia versus Jose Antonio Ibarra, case SU 24CR0323, count 1, malice murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 4, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 5, kidnapping with bodily injury. I find the defendant guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault with intent to rape. I find the defendant guilty. Count 7, aggravated battery. I find the defendant guilty. Count 8, obstructing or hindering a 911 call. I find the defendant guilty. Count 9, tampering with evidence. I find the defendant guilty. Count 10, peeping Tom. I find the defendant guilty. I certainly will allow both sides to look at this if you want to do it. The next step is sentencing. I'm prepared to go forward with that now, or if either side suggests that you need a few minutes, an hour break or something to do that, then I'll certainly do that as well. Consider that.
Jose remained still and emotionless in the courtroom as he was convicted on all counts. Carrie Howell, a longtime friend of Laken Riley's mother and stepfather, described the harrowing nightmare that began 272 days earlier. Quote, "On the morning of February 22nd, 2024, our lives were forever changed in a way none of us could have ever imagined. The moment I got the call from my husband that Laken hadn't returned home from her morning run, that no one could reach her and she was missing, I knew in my heart something horrific had happened to her. I had the worst feeling that she was no longer with us, but I prayed and prayed and prayed as I frantically got ready to drive to Athens to be with my friends. I begged the Lord for her to still be alive. And as terrible as this may sound, that she had just been kidnapped, that she would be found physically unharmed and alive, or that she'd be able to escape to safety. I prayed she wasn't being trafficked. I've never prayed for anyone to be kidnapped. At the time, that seemed better than the alternative. This nightmare spiraled out of control when I received another call from my husband while I was on the road to Athens. Laken's stepfather had called my husband and said, "She's with Jesus, brother." That will never leave my memory. And can I just say that when I first saw the video of her family finding out what happened, I completely broke down and immediately called my family. I'm very close with them and we talk every day, but like I said in the beginning of this episode, it just hit way too close to home. And I'm not going to include the audio of her family finding out because I feel like it's an invasion of their privacy and shouldn't be online, but do me a favor and call your parents, your grandparents, or your friends and just check in on them. I will be donating to her and her family later this evening and encourage anyone that can do so to do the same. As always, all evidence will be linked in the show notes, and make sure you head over to our Instagram to enter in on the giveaway. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you on the next one.